Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Voytek. Voytek has led the toughest yet most successful military campaigns except for the last one, of which he was the only survivor. Since then he carries a deep sense of guilt and grief for his fallen comrades, shielded behind his aggressive demeanor. And currently, as of the time recording this video, there's a total of 34 legendary metal monsters, and he's also part of the mechanical book, which is home to 36 legendary monsters. And then furthermore, this monster is in the Evil Legions book, which is the home to 65 legendary monsters, so there's quite a bit of competition there. And then lastly, he's part of the new recently added book, the Winter book, which currently only has 24 legendary monsters. And so with that out of the way, let's talk about his stats. He has a power of 33,377, which puts him in 24th place when talking about metal legendary monsters, so not a very high power. As for his life, however, it's 37,699, which actually puts him in 2nd place. That's right, the only metal legendary monster that has a higher life than Voytek would have to be Tankirion. And then lastly, this monster has a speed of 3355, which puts him in 28th place, tied with Gangsterosaurus. So he's not very fast, he's not very strong, but he does have a really impressive life. And furthermore, his trait is immune to freeze, making him the 2nd metal monster to be immune to freeze, the first of which was Hercule. And having this immunity helps him out probably the most in the Winter book, where there's plenty of monsters that can AoE freeze or single freeze. But in terms of like just having this immunity, it's not that great, I think. You know, he can get stunned easily now, he can get possessed easily now, but it is what it is. As for his relics, he can hold 2 armor relics. And armor relics are basically used just to provide a shield for yourself or for your team. And with all that out of the way, let's talk about his skills. And so his ultimate attack is called Shining Ice, deals very heavy special damage to all enemies, applies Mega Freeze to all enemies. So this skill deals 60 special base damage to all of the enemy monsters, and applies Mega Freeze. And Mega Freeze is the newest and latest immobilizing effect. And essentially what it is a freeze for 2 turns. And all of us are assuming that this is going to override whatever monster has immunity to freeze. It's like how Mega Stun overrides immunity to stun. Although we're not entirely sure because, you know, there is possession, which 2-turn possession doesn't bypass immunity to possession. However, it's not called Mega Possession. So operating under the assumption that Mega Freeze does override immunity to freeze, I gotta say, this is an awesome ultimate attack. 120 accuracy, it immobilizes the enemies for 2 turns, it deals 60 special base damage on top of that. What more can you want? Whatever book this monster's in, this is going to come in handy a lot of the time. And then for this monster's regular skills, let's skip skills group 1 entirely. So skills group 2, Sarbo, applies a 75% shield, immunity to freeze, and immunity to stun to all allies, requires cooldown. This is an incredible attack, an incredible skill. 13 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown, so your whole team gets a 75% shield, immunity to freeze, and immunity to stun. The only way they can be immobilized now is through one of those unique immobilizing skills or through possession. But even if you do get possessed and you're attacking yourself, you have a 75% shield. This is amazing. This is a must-have skill. And you can probably imagine that Voytek, with his high life, with his low power and not so fast speed, he's gonna be a really tanky supportive monster. So skills group 2 Sarbo, an incredible skill. Next up we have Caspian Floods, deals heavy special damage to one enemy, 50% chance of applying freeze to all enemies, requires cooldown. So here we have an attack, it's 45 damage, it's special based, 29 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown, it has a 95% accuracy because it only attacks one monster. However, it has a 50% chance to freeze all enemies, and so that actually makes this skill actually worth running, just because you have a chance to immobilize everyone. Yeah, of course, most of the time you probably won't be landing it, especially if the enemy monsters have hardened, bulwark, or tough. But hey, some chance to immobilize is better than no chance to immobilize, so I would consider running Caspian Floods. Next up we have Caucasian Shepherd, deals massive heavy metal damage to one enemy, applies daze to one enemy, 55 damage, metal based attack, 25 stamina cost, no cooldown, so this skill is spammable, and it dazes the enemy monster. Now the cool thing about daze is that it reduces the enemy's attack power by 1/4 and it reduces their accuracy by 1/4. And when you have a supportive monster like Voytek, who isn't really there to deal damage, who isn't there to do other things, whose really only sole purpose is to stay alive and protect your team, a skill that's a single daze comes in handy because it accomplishes that. It reduces the likelihood of the enemy monsters attacking you, and it reduces the damage output of the enemy monsters. So you may want to consider Caucasian Shepherd. Personally, I don't think I'm going to be recommending it. I still prefer Caspian Floods and Sarbo for sure. But with that said, on to skills group 3 we go. Armored Misha. Applies a 100% shield to all allies, removes all negative status effects from all allies, requires cooldown. And so now we have a team skill that applies a 100% shield to all of your teammates, and it removes negative status effects from all of your teammates. It only costs a low 17 stamina, however has a high 4-turn cooldown. So Armored Misha and Sarbo, that's incredible, right? 75% of your shield, immunity to freeze, stun, and then Armored Misha, which gives you 100% shield and removes any negative effects. So if you have blind, daze, any DLT effect on you, it's completely gone. so he's extremely supportive. And the cool thing about Voytek is that he isn't just an individual tank, he essentially makes your whole team tanks by giving them 75% shield, 100% shield. It goes without saying, these two skills are must-have skills. And then we also have Caucasian Mountains, which deals heavy special damage to one enemy, applies freeze to one enemy, and taunt to itself. So now going back to his tank purpose, 50 damage, special base, 31 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown, he not only immobilizes one enemy monster, he also gives himself taunts. So now all of the enemy single targets attacks are going to be directed to your Voytek. So what more can you want from this monster? And he's not even that slow to begin with. 33.55. I know it's 28th place in terms of metal monsters, but it's still a pretty good speed, enough to make it so where the enemy monsters won't be going twice before you go once, especially if you give him a single speed run. And as for the last skill, I guess he kinda wants to be an attacker too. He has Clumsy Beast, deals massive metal damage to one enemy, requires cooldown, 65 damage, metal based attack, 25 stamina cost, 1 turn cooldown. And so because of this skill, there's various ways to run this monster. For example, if you don't like Caspian Floods, which is what I recommend, because it is essentially an AoE freeze skill, even if it's only a 50% chance to freeze, then you can just run Clumsy Beast, and you can give this monster one strength rune, you can give him a life rune, you can give him a speed or a team speed, you know, run the rainbow build, and have him do like any single purpose. If you need him to single hit with Clumsy Beast and take out an enemy monster, you can do that. If you need to protect your team and remove negative effects, you can do that with Armored Misha. If there's an enemy monster like a cabin fish that can stun or freeze you, we'll just use Sarbo and you're protected from that, while also giving your team a 75% shield. So multiple ways to utilize this monster. If you don't really want him there to deal damage, if you don't want to run a strength rune, then don't run a strength rune. You can give this monster 3 team speed runes and just have him go last and apply that 100% shield and remove any negative effects your monsters may have incurred during the duration of the battle. Or maybe you give him 1 speed and 2 team speed. Or maybe you give him a life and 2 team speed. There are so many various ways to play around with the runes, and it's just really going to go down to each individual preference. Do you want him as a pure supportive monster? Do you want him to be able to deal some sort of damage? So let's go back to speaking about the skills. Personally, I think the must-have skills are Sarbo and Armored Misha. After that, I would definitely recommend Caucasian Mountains, as it is a single freeze and a taunt. And as for the last and final skill, it's ultimately up to you. I really like Caspian Floods just because there is that chance to immobilize. And as of the time recording this video, and if you're watching this video in the future, this may not apply anymore, but for some reason, 50% chance skills of every monster that's been released after the release of Samael, they've all actually been 100% chance to freeze. So it's quite possible that Voytek, when he gets released, has Caspian Floods, which is actually 100% chance to freeze, in which case it's definitely a must-have. But if that's not the case anymore, and you test out Caspian Floods and you find that it's missing more often than you'd like, then in that case you may want to consider the Zero Cooldown Daze skill, or Clumsy Beast, the 65 damage, massive metal attack, 1 turn cooldown. So that's ultimately up to you. And I gotta say, even though for the most part I don't like tanks too much, I appreciate their usefulness. I know when they can be useful, but I just feel that the majority of players don't really get to utilize the tank just because of the way the game is designed. You know, typically in player versus player, the enemy has way better monsters than you, and even if you do have a tank, he's too slow to get a turn in, he can't really help you out. I really do like Voytek, because the tank he can provide, the support he can provide, I think it's one of the best compared to other monsters. Yeah, there's like Holter's Bodyguard, he was quite amazing too, being able to heal your monsters massively, but this monster gives them 100% shield, 75% shield, with extra added effects, and aside from that he can hold the shield relic, and aside from that he can self-taunt and still immobilize with a freeze, and he's a metal monster. I gotta say, I really like Voytek. But then as for how useful is this monster on defense, well, he kinda has the same problem that Holter's Bodyguard has, and that's that he can be immobilized. So can you imagine if this monster does get immobilized, and then he gives the team, the enemy team, 100% life shield, or a 75% life shield, plus all these immunities? That would really suck. Or maybe he does Caspian Floods against your own team and the freeze does land, in which case now you're completely immobilized. Or even if he does Caucasian Mountains, maybe he does this on himself and then that taunt, so then that's not too bad. But if he does the Caucasian Mountains on one of your teammates and they get frozen, and then you get the taunts, you know, it's like, if this monster does get possessed, and this is why I kind of don't like that he doesn't have Hardened, but at the same time, it does work in the Winter Book. I don't know how useful this monster is for defensive purposes, but for offensive purposes, I think he can work wonders. It's just a matter of utilizing him correctly, making sure he works in your team. And again, that's going to differ on every single individual player. But with that being said, that is going to conclude my analysis on Voytek, and I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? Do you like him or do you dislike him? And what do you like or dislike about him? Let me know in the comments below. And also, best of luck to all of you on your Monster Legends adventures on this upcoming Maze Island, where all these monsters are going to be released, depending on when you're watching this video. Seriously, best of luck to all of you. May you get whoever you want to get. And like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.